Hello, welcome back to Blender Sushi versus series. Today I will be comparing Houdini grammar and Blender grammar. This is gonna be, I think, for beginners. If someone ever asks you the node system in Houdini compared to Blender, uh, using add-on like SVerchok or animation nodes, they both can be equally complicated, but I think it's not the point. The point is actually how to get to your the solution of your problem very quickly. And um, let's say you're given a puzzle like this. Okay, think of it like some kind of decorative cake, or kind of like a cooking, like a very intricate kind of cooking, and or like a sculpture, and you're thinking of it, okay, how do I create this using just nodes in Houdini or in Blender, or maybe not even using procedural nodes. You analyze this, okay, there's like a repeating pattern, obviously. And if you know Houdini or you know Blender for a while, like SVerchok add-on in Blender for a while, you know how to do this very quickly. For beginners, maybe, okay, if they know a little bit of 3D, they probably knows, okay, there's a starting point somewhere that's kind of, there's some kind of spiraling extrusion, right? And they will start to think a way to do this. If you actually break this down, of course, there's repeating pattern, first of all, so you can separate that. Maybe you can make this part first, and then repeatedly doing it for the face of the geometry, whatever it is underneath. So that's actually a good starting point for when thinking procedurally. So if let's start with Houdini, right? Houdini, very powerful node-based system. I know I often compare it with SVerchok, and I try to challenge it many ways. Houdini itself is very powerful, I know. The only thing I was kind of unhappy is when my computer was broken. My computer was Windows 7, and I have Houdini 9. I have license for it that I purchased for $5,000 back then, years ago. These days I find it hard to make it work because it's old, and I'm supposed to upgrade, and I don't know, it's a pain. But anyway, I'm using Houdini Apprentice, non-commercial, right? Just for my own study. I'm gonna hide a lot of things. I don't need render, composite, motion effects. I need geometry spreadsheet. That's what kind of nice in Houdini. I will start with a box, maybe. Okay, I hit tab. So let's say type. Okay, I haven't used Houdini for a while, but I know I can create a box, and I know that for that puzzle I need to extrude. So right away you will search for extrude, right? If you're a total beginner, you might want to try some of this, but I know we will be needing poly extrude. And you try to plug it in. And poly extrude in Houdini has a lot of convenience, a lot of convenience. Like you can distance, you can inset, and if you want the individual, of course, you use individual elements, and then you do the extrusion. So yeah, basically this is a good starting point. If you want multiple extrusion, you can. And Houdini, like I said, have a lot of convenience. For example, like things like a lot of hidden features here, and there's this twist, nice, and there's also this division, and you can have pretty much kind of solution of that puzzle we have earlier. If you want, of course, okay, this is a good starting point. Doesn't seem to be complete yet. You can add subdivision, so hit tab, subdivide, just put it in. Yeah, I think it's about pretty much getting there, except that maybe with that puzzle, you perhaps someone say, okay, with that puzzle, each of the extrusion is actually random. Okay, random. How do I randomize each and every individual face? So apparently, again, Houdini has convenience. If you dig into the documentation of Houdini for the nodes, like I think operator info, sorry, not operator info, click for help, right, for the nodes help. For poly extrude, there's this really nice documentation built in Houdini, and normally comes with example as well. And yeah, there's a lot. But however, if you Google search for random poly extrude, you will probably taken to Oddforce forum, and you will find answer by Matt Estella on how to do it properly. Yeah, so that's a Houdini. I mean, you can basically use a random. So there's this attribute randomize. This is actually pretty new for newer version of Houdini, because the one I used back then, it doesn't really have this attribute randomize. And this day you have, and you have this poly extrude, right? Apparently there's something called Z scale, distance scale. This is actually for randomization, even though it's not so obvious. Okay, if you put attribute randomize, by default it's randomizing the color because it's looking at the CD. And if you want to randomize the scaling of the extrusion, you put in Z scale. I think that's how you do it really. And this value, just dimension of 1, and I believe you need to set this to primitive. Okay, because it's a primitive attribute. And now the nice thing about Houdini, of course, is the geometry spreadsheet, and you can see the attributes for each points and also primitives. We have a Z scale. This is the attribute that comes and can be applied into the face. This is something that you will learn along the way. If you're a total beginner, that will totally blow up your mind. I mean, if someone told you that, oh, Houdini is easy here, you don't need to understand programming. Yes, for a certain point, but eventually you need to learn coding and programming and all this paradigm. And even though this is super simple, right, and the fact that poly extrude has convenient about Z scale and how you can randomize it up here, and you can randomize the seed. This is super cool. However, it takes a while to actually understand this, and I know most of people who learn Houdini with some programming background will understand this quite fast. Okay, that's one thing. For most 3D artists, if they are new, if they are not very technical, it's gonna be a little bit difficult. I mean, it's yeah, it's both tricky and kind of quirky. So let's now actually switch to Blender, right? I talked too much about Houdini. Let's switch to Blender. I use SVerchok nodes a lot. I know how it works. But for what we're doing, we're gonna do a similar thing. Start with a box. And we're gonna extrude, right? Extrude. And we want to extrude separate faces. SVerchok has a lot of extrude nodes. That might confuse people too at first, but we want to extrude separate faces. So we're gonna, yeah, connect this. Okay, vertices, edges, polygon as usual. I usually use the new connection tool. select these two, tap V for hotkey, and viewer draw. I'm gonna do the same. Extrude and scale. Okay, so that's a extrude and scale, and file, save as before I forgot. So I call this extrude ice cream. You want to have, if you want to have randomized, if you want to randomize this, the scaling, you can use this, because this is just the way SVerchok works. It's not like, okay, this is how you do it, but there are many ways to do things, of course. And on top of that, there are certain grammars on how you do things. So now we have random extrusion using this node, and this node doesn't have convenience like Houdini, where you can extrude and it has multiple subdivision. This one has, of course, and yeah, that's really handy. It looks like it doesn't have what we need. However, there's also this mode using normal or using matrix. Okay, let's use matrix actually. For someone who is new, okay, they might be surprised. Okay, what's this? But apparently you can do similar thing. You can extrude, you can scale the extrusion, and you can angle. Angle is the twist. The only thing that's missing here is the divisions, and you're probably stuck. At this point, you're stuck. But at least you have something here, and you're kind of halfway there. You can use subdivide. Subdivide in SVerchok is not subdivision like Catmull-Clark that you might guess, but it's not too bad. It's not too bad. You can still do similar thing to this. Yeah, this one is using Catmull-Clark. SVerchok one is slightly different. Blender modifier is using Catmull-Clark. So yeah, makes sense, and you can kind of, okay, right, it's doing the twist, but it's not subdividing it multiple times like you want. So perhaps you want to do this. Let's do it second time. What you gonna get now? Yeah, it's extruding all the face, right? If you know SVerchok already, of course, it's you dig in. You should actually use in, and you use the masking. So now it's extruding it twice and twisting it. Cool. What if I want to extrude it 10 times? Well, you probably have to do this, or at least maybe 5 times. This will, okay, this is probably something that will crash Blender. I mean, I should be careful here because there's this masking that I need to use. Otherwise, it's gonna extrude everything, and it's gonna extrude exponentially, and Blender might froze. So yeah, eventually you understand what's going on, and this is of course what we are trying to create from the very beginning. It's the twisting of extrusion with perhaps with randomizations. The randomizations is something that you can plug here, but there is another way, like I said, right, from the very beginning, to make this cake, you might actually create one and simply adapt it into polygon face. And adaptive is actually something that SVerchok can do, and actually Blender can do as well. So you create one element or one module, and you reassign it multiple times. It's slightly more complex, but also could be more elegant. Depends on how you see it. So let's say you're creating one of this spinning ice cream cone. Let's try it. So I believe extrude region have it. So this is this will actually surprise you a little bit. You start with a plane, make it small size, center it. This one actually have multiple extrude for the matrix. So this one have the convenience of the multiple subdivisions. Let's see how this actually works. This one have bottom face, but that's okay. Can live with it. I know how to do this rather quickly. Okay, this one, if I'm using number range, okay, it's gonna extrude. Okay. So that's a multiple extrusion, but it's getting longer and longer for each step. Probably a better way is to use a repeat. You start with a number, like a floating number, and you want to repeat this maybe 5 times, so extruding 5 times. And you need this on level. Okay, you need to unwrap. Okay, it's a SVerchok thing. Again, it's something you learn, and you want to scale it down, of course, and you can now have control over the extrusion. Okay, cool. You built one of the ice cream decoration. Okay, now you can simply adapt it. Let me save it quickly. This is version 2. Adaptive polygons. So this is kind of like a power node, but it's also very useful because you can have box. You can plug this in. This is the recipient, and this is going to be the donor. This is like a tissue add-on where you are replacing components of face with another thing. Okay, so it seems to be getting somewhere. That's for the width coefficient. There's the scale coefficient. You can join it and you can remove double. Alright, that's cool. Let's see. For the Z coefficients, you can actually use random number, and that's where you make random extrusion, sort of. Oh, that's I plug in to the wrong thing. It's supposed to be the Z. Oh, it's so it's scaling. But you got the idea, hopefully. So this is probably another ways to do it. So there are many ways to do things, obviously, and there are many ways. It's something that you will learn eventually, and the way you get into it is, so this one, of course, it's beautiful, quite elegant, and poly extrude has its own convenience. Supposedly what if someone say, what if you, for each element you want to have different things? Can you do that? Okay, of course, the answer is yes. But for the artist, they have to do a little bit of research. Okay, how do I replace each module with different things? And definitely you can do it in Houdini. I know with SVerchok now, with this knowledge, you can actually use different input here for the donor, and you can randomize each one of them with a different decoration ice cream. But yeah, so my point is they both can be equally complicated, but it's like a language that you learn, the grammar, how to do things. Not that one is bad from the other. I mean, Houdini, I mean, okay. Um, for now, I will be just using the apprentice version, and really, I will just gonna save geometry here. In the past, they don't actually have this ability. They now allow you to do this and save it as something like maybe like obj or ply. Let's save it as ice cream. So it's they make the saving very slow. Of course, if you have the proper license, this is gonna be faster. Ice cream.ply. But yeah, I think Houdini is quite powerful as it is, and there's a lot to learn here. Like you can spend years just to learn the basic, but the real basic is that to understand the grammar, the language. Here, like these nodes, we are using more nodes, but also it's slightly different, maybe easier for some people. Some people might think, okay, this is slightly more complicated. Well, it really depends for a lot of things. But Blender and SVerchok add-on, Blender of course is free, it's open source, and SVerchok add-on is free even though it's super powerful, and it's continuously being developed, and it's kind of language that once you learn it, you can't really live without it. It's really too powerful, and it's really amazing, and I donate time to time to Blender and also SVerchok developer. Houdini is a power tool for artists as well, and then to learn Houdini and a lot of things. I mentioned about odd force, right? Odd force. Yeah, you will find a lot of Houdini answers here. If you learn Houdini, you probably will learn some of the language that you can apply using Blender. It's a very interesting thing actually. And oh yeah, by the way, I forgot with SVerchok, of course, you have this help page. This is for the extrude node. So if you have extrude separate with inset like behavior, with the nodes being selected to get to the help, select the item, and then you find the online documentations. It's gonna take you to this page. You need internet. For SVerchok, we don't have the help. Example blend file, but I made my own, and I share it on my own GitHub. But odd force, like I said, if you search for extrude polygon face randomly, you will find that answer by Matt Estella. Of course, Matt Estella is known for his Tokeru Wiki Maya and Tokeru Wiki Houdini. It's the whole world of craziness, basically. Someone told me it's a jungle out there. The thing you learn as soon as you understand all this node stuff, even after 10 years, 20 years, and then suddenly there's some new things coming out, like the new program that use nodes, and it's probably simpler to use than what you're using. But yeah, Houdini, I do respect Houdini. I say it again. Side effects, I pay them full license of Houdini of 9, and I never upgrade it, I know, but I pay $5,000. That's for the full Houdini with all the smoke, etc. It does not work on a simple computer. It's not for MacBook Pro, for example. It's the wrong machine. If I have more powerful machine, that $5,000 license I pay to side effects, that's definitely should be used if I have actual project. If you're a freelancer, I wish I never paid that $5,000. Okay, I regret it so much. That is, I have to wait 20 years or 10 years. That's my saving for quite a long time, and that's $5,000 is wasted, definitely. I wish I can give it to Blender Foundations, or at least I wish I didn't pay that much back then and just use it for Houdini monthly license or yearly license today, because it's so much cheaper. But anyway, yeah, I know this is Houdini version 18. Back then it was Houdini version 9. I made a mistake. It's a wrong investment, totally. I bought a powerful tool. I don't know how to use it back then. As an independent artist, it's wasted. Maybe it's not wasted. Maybe someone told me, okay, you still have license, right? Yeah, but I cannot use it on the latest Houdini. So what's the point? I don't know. I asked Houdini, I asked Side Effects many times. I pay a license that much. Can I use it at least something, you know? No, they say the answer is no. It's too long. Well, that's why I switched to Blender, and I learned about all this node stuff. It's a long story, but I know it pissed me off a little bit. But anyway, it's my personal story. I don't know if anything changed in the future, but at a time like this, when you're working at home, I don't know, you keep paying license for I don't know what. If you have projects, that's fine, but learning Blender and this node stuff like SVerchok, animation nodes, Sorcar, there are so many ways to do things these days that allows you to create what you want to create. All right, so yeah, hopefully this is a video that can benefit everyone, but there's of course a lot of things to be said, but anyway, it's as a tool itself, Houdini, Blender with SVerchok add-on, nodes stuff, they both really equally powerful and have different style of problem solving. I mean, I look at this and okay, it's quite elegant. I know it's quite amazing. Both of them is quite amazing. What else can give you a way to do this? Okay, if I increase this, all right, you get that. All right, cool. Subdivide, right? Subdivide. The nice thing about SVerchok actually is the developer that's constantly working in the background, and I often take it for granted, but I really they did an amazing job really. From SVerchok probably currently is already version 2 or 3, but the developers keeping is still version 1 or less than version 1, because there are so many nodes that's not been created, but SVerchok is continuously being developed, and yeah, it's really quite powerful. Anyway, so I talked too much already. Hopefully this benefits everyone. If you're trying to compare Houdini and Blender add-on like SVerchok, it's a little add-on, you know, it's a little, you can do so much with Houdini. Houdini have thousands of nodes, hundreds, thousands. What's really powerful, of course, this attribute stuff. I found, okay, the attribute and randomize is actually quite powerful, and Houdini can look at things very, very quickly. Okay, here, for example, you create an you are randomizing z-scale. You can actually create your own variable, and you can apply it into poly extrude maybe. Yeah, all those kind of complexity that you learn, that you can probably do the same, more or less the same. Like I said, the power is actually when SVerchok developer give you the solution or help you in a ways, or when you're finding the solution online. Okay, so pretty much what I want to say in this video. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.